Ramayana, Divine Loophole by Sanjay Patel. Act 3, Endless War. Oceans apart. Upon Hanuman's return, Rama's spirits soared with the news of Sita's discovery. The Vanera reported every detail of his adventure, telling the prince of all of the things he had observed during his trip to Ravana's capital city. While he spoke, a faint trail of black smoke lingered over the horizon, evidence of Hanuman's fiery escape from Lanka. King Sugriva informed Rama that their army could commence the march toward Lanka immediately. Rama and Lakshman led the procession, relieved to finally be on their way to free Sita. But when the great army reached the shoreline of South India, they were unexpectedly stalled by the vast salty ocean. It turned out that none of the animals could swim, and from where they stood, the island of Lanka seemed to be another world away. Stymied by yet another roadblock, Rama fasted and prayed for a solution, all to no avail. Eventually, he grew angry and began to shoot fiery arrows into the waves, threatening to burn up the entire ocean so his army could cross. Fearing the blue warrior's wrath, the ocean diva Varuna emerged from his watery home and approached the shore. He explained that as much as he would love to help, it was impossible for him to part the waters, for even he, a mighty diva, was a slave to Ravana. Luckily, Jambavan was very clever and figured out a solution to the problem. The bear remembered that if a god's name was written on a stone, it would float. After trying several names of stone that sank, Hanuman tried Rama's name, and to everyone's surprise, the stone floated. Sugriva and Jambavan were thrilled and ordered their tribes to begin building a bridge of stones with Rama's name written on them. The entire army of Vaneras and bears gathered up every pebble, rock, and boulder from the beach and set them upon the ocean. It was as if an entire section of the mainland had stretched out into the sea. For 5 days, the animals worked nonstop to build what became to be known as the Great Bridge of Rama. 5 really long days. Battle of Lanka. Once the bridge was complete, Rama's army marched across it to the island of Lanka. At the gates of Ravana's capital city stood the imperial demon army equipped and ready for war. In keeping with the rules of engagement, Rama dispatched a final messenger to ask Ravana to release Sita and avoid war and bloodshed. But the demon king laughed off the request, declaring that the only thing Rama would gain from Lanka was his own death. Having no further choice, Rama instructed his army to make themselves ready for an attack. The bears uprooted trees and boulders, while the Vaneras tore down branches and gathered stones, making weapons with whatever might crack a Rakshasa skull. The jungle army stood ready to attack at Rama's signal. The blue warrior waited for the auspicious moment when the sun reached its zenith in the sky. The demon army, being creatures of darkness and gloom, would be at their weakest during this hour. As the sun finally reached its highest point in the sky, Rama issued the order to attack. A deafening roar erupted from the charging Vaneras and bears as they surged toward the hordes of demons, who responded in kind, blowing their horns and conch. The rancor was terrible as the armies thundered toward each other. Evil arrows. Before long, it became clear that the monkeys and bears were more than worthy opponents. The animals shattered, squashed, and ripped apart their enemies. Noticing their ranks dwindling far faster than they had ever seen, the demons turned to sorcery and began firing magic arrows that transformed into deadly snakes. The tide seemed to turn as Rama's warriors began dying by the hundreds. But then Lakshman picked up one of the snake arrows and fired it back at the demon army. As it shot through the air, it transformed into an eagle who screeched down upon the massive snakes and began ripping the serpents to shred. Soon the sky was filled with arrows turned eagles, and the reptile menace was annihilated. Ravana's own sons, brothers, and best generals led ferocious attacks against Rama's army, but one by one they were all defeated. The war seemed to be tipping in Rama's favor, until the demon king decided to take matters into his own hands. Ravana's rampage. After witnessing the destruction of his entire family, Ravana declared that he would enter the battle himself. The mighty 10-headed king would see and kill in every direction. Making his way through the battle, he felled thousands of monkeys and bears, sending a wave of fear through the jungle army. Sir Grieva and the other generals tried to counterattack, but the cruel demon continued on, striking down everything in his path. Even mighty Hanuman flew toward the demon king, but was sent crashing downward by a blazing volley of fiery arrows. Ravana spotted Lakshman on the other side of the battlefield and charged straight toward him. He knew Lakshman's death would cause Rama great pain. Fast as lightning, the demon struck Lakshman with a single mighty blow. Rama watched as his brother fell. He immediately ordered his army to retreat as he whisked Lakshman off the battlefield. All of Ravana's heads smiled as he declared a quick victory. Rama's generals rushed toward their fallen leader and began to cry and moan, for there was nothing the animals could do for the brave prince as he lay mortally wounded. Leaf of Life. Rama laid his hand on Lakshman's face and could feel his brother's life force leaving him. He despaired that the war was lost. Jambavan, ever wise, offered the one solution that might save him in time. Once again, he turned to Hanuman, son of the wind and god, and called on his powers of speedy flight. With no time to lose, Hanuman was dispatched. Swiftly, the monkey jumped across the ocean and the entire length of India, all the way to the Himalayas, where natural medicine grew. But upon reaching the mountains, Hanuman was confronted by a big surprise. There were plants everywhere. In fact, the whole mountain was covered with them. Hanuman was confused and didn't know which plant to pick. The sun was setting fast, and Lakshman's time was running out. Hanuman began to shake and panic. Mountain of Medicine. Hanuman prayed once more by repeating the mantra of Rama's name. As he did, his body began to expand till once again he was as big as a giant. Ultimately, Hanuman did the only thing he could think of. In a cloud of snow and dirt, the massive Vanera uprooted the entire mountain and balanced it in the palm of his hand. He shot across the sky, racing against time to return to Lakshman. The jungle army cheered as they saw clever Hanuman bringing back an entire mountain of medicine. Before the Vanera could even land, a strong onshore wind blew toward Lanka and across the hillside of medicine, carrying the smell of the life-restoring herbs straight to Lakshman's nose. He revived, and when Hanuman landed, they wasted no time in gathering the herbs to restore him back to perfect health. Rama thanked the shrewd Vanera and instructed him to harvest plenty of the medicine before returning the mountain to its home. Ravana was astonished to see Rama and Lakshman return to the battlefield. The demon king was frustrated and annoyed that the war had not yet ended. He challenged Rama to a duel once the sun had risen. At first light, the demon king of Lanka emerged proudly on the battlefield upon a mighty war chariot. Ravana shone as brightly as the sun itself, a truly magnificent warrior, and Rama realized that if the demon had not been his enemy, he would have been worthy of worship. But Rama knew that as magnificent as Ravana appeared, his crimes could not go unpunished. With great respect, Rama joined his palms and saluted the demon king with a fiery gaze. A hush fell upon the jungle army as Rama strode past the protection of his generals. Hanuman quickly intercepted him and insisted that Rama sit upon his furry shoulders so he could act as a chariot to ensure the kings would have a fair duel. Rama and Ravana saluted each other and faced off once more, and soon their weapons of war lit up the entire sky. The blue warrior struck down each weapon that Ravana fired until the demon was left with only one weapon in his 20 hands, Shiva's Trishula, a three-pronged trident with which Ravana could summon up the destructive flame of Shiva's third eye, a fire that could burn up the universe. Using all of his strength, the demon sent the Trishula's flames leaping toward the warrior. Rama knew he would be incinerated by Shiva's fire, and so he turned to the magic arrow that had served him so well in the past. He called upon the arrow to become endowed with a Brahmastra, a divine power, with the ability to end all of creation as it was wrought by the creator god Brahma himself. Rama fired the arrow a moment before the dark flames engulfed him. The earth shook as the two weapons collided. Equally powerful, the mighty weapons canceled each other out, leaving the universe shaken, but still in existence. As the dust settled, Rama saw that Ravana was drained of energy and unable to move. Seizing the opportunity, Rama quickly fired 10 arrows, slicing off each of Ravana's heads. Undying demon. But instead of dying, the demon simply grew more heads. Rama began to panic, shooting off several more heads, but they all quickly grew back. Hanuman did his best to dodge Ravana's attacks, while the blue prince gathered himself. Over the demon's fiendish laughter, Rama heard the voice of Agastya, the sage he had encountered in the forest. The sage spoke in the prince's mind and reminded Rama that Ravana's heads could never be defeated, for they were an extension of his ego, which had no limits. Ravana had but one weakness, his belly button, which held the nectar of his power. Agastya suggested the prince quickly take aim at this vulnerable spot, for the demon grew stronger for each new head regenerated. Rama summoned up the Brahmastra once again and charged the arrow with his power. The prince took careful aim and waited for the moment the demon was aligned with the sun before releasing the blazing missile. The arrow of light burned through the sky until it found its mark, striking Ravana directly in the belly button. In a blinding flash, as the arrow struck its target, the demon saw the blue warrior's true identity as the avatar of Vishnu. Ravana realized that he had no protection from a god reborn as a man. This cosmic loophole brought swift justice. The golden arrow had flown with such force that it pushed Ravana's body from the earth, high up through the levels of heaven and back down through the lowest levels of hell. The mystical arrow shined with such radiance that it extinguished the shadow of evil from every corner of the three worlds. The universe was silenced as evil was brought to an end for an age. Sita's honor. After the war was won, Sita was set free and restored with clean clothes and jewelry befitting her beauty. She was brought before her prince upon a royal palanquin. The entire jungle army stood breathless as the princess emerged and was escorted toward Rama. Sita presented Rama with a victory garland, but instead of hugs and kisses, Rama stared coldly at her and spoke with chilling words. The blue prince rejected Sita for having spent so many nights in another man's home. The princess felt so disgraced and heartbroken that she asked Lakshman to build her a cremation fire. Sita then spoke so everyone could hear. She declared that if she were innocent, she would be unharmed by the flames. Otherwise, she would gladly let herself perish before anyone who questioned her honor. Sita bravely walked into the fire and stood in its center. Glowing goddess. Sita's body burned with a golden, pure light, giving her the aura of a goddess. Then Agni, the great fire god, emerged from the flames. The god explained to Rama that Sita was more pure than his own flame. She was faultless and perfect. Agni proclaimed that no doubt the question should ever be raised of her again. With this final word, the flames and the fire gods were extinguished, and Sita was delivered back to Rama, glowing radiantly as a jewel. Rama kneeled before Sita and apologized for his behavior. As he explained everything that he had done to find her, Sita's heart softened, and she forgave him. The two gazed at each other with an abundance of love as the crowd cheered. Times have changed, as have customs, but love has always been complicated. Time flies. With just a day left in their 14-year exile, Rama, Sita, and Lakshman were excited to go home. Rama bid farewell to his comrades and invited his loyal generals to join him. They all hopped aboard Ravana's chariot and quickly sped off from Lanka. From the vantage point high in the sky, Rama showed Sita the great bridge over the ocean and then the tall peaks of Kishkandaha, home of the Vanera tribes. Swiftly they passed over Panchaviti, their home in the jungle, and over the Dandanka forest and past the hills of Kuta. Before long, they crossed over the banks of the Sarayu River. The chariot turned to follow the river's winding path, for Rama knew it had swift currents that would lead them home. As they crested the hills, a brilliant sight grew in the distance. Golden towers and gleaming domes rose majestically from the horizon. As they rapidly approached the mighty gates of Adoya, Rama and Sita were finally home. King at last. And so it was, on the anniversary of their 14-year exile, that Rama and Sita were both finally crowned the rightful king and queen. As Rama took up the throne, he saw the sandals that his brother had placed in his absence. Shatrughna and Bharata returned from their self-imposed exile and were honored to remove the shoes from the throne and place them back onto Rama's feet. With that gesture, the people rejoiced for the return of their king. One by one, Rama called upon his loyal generals and explained to his court what each member had done to serve him during their grueling ordeal. After 3 months, it was time for his comrades to take their leave. Jambavan and Sugriva extended invitations to Rama, Lakshman, and Sita to visit their kingdom so they could honor and welcome them as kings. When it came time for Hanuman to depart, Sita gave the Vanera a very special gift, a necklace of her most cherished pearls. The Vanera welled up with tears and swore an oath to Rama and Sita to always be their loyal devotee and humble servant. And so began a reign of peace and prosperity that lasted longer than any other monarch's reign in India. Known as Ramayana the rule of King Rama. To this day, much of India still celebrates Rama's return from exile and his victory over Ravana during the Hindu festival known as Diwali. The end.